Okay, I just had to reset the scan tool. I think I was pushing too many buttons there. I caused it to freeze up. Alright, so we're going to go back into global here, like we did before. I'll finish going through everything in here. Diagnose, start communication. Continue. Now we're back in. Alright. Now there's some other options here too, and I'll cover what these are in class. There's different ways that you can go in and look at things, but the two biggest things are your codes and your data. Those are going to be the biggest ones that you're going to use, and I'll explain everything else in class when we have more time. But this is your global functions. Now we'll go back out to the home screen. We're going to go into scanner, and now, like I said, we can pick each specific vehicle. And when we go into these specific vehicles, and I'm going to go into my Buick that I have here, you have to pick the make and the model and the year. So it takes a little bit more time than global, but it's going to give you more options. It's going to give you more details. So again, if you want quick, easy codes and data, go into global. If you want more detailed information, you're going to go into the vehicle specific. Okay. Didn't let me do automatic. So there's Park Avenue. It's making me choose the vehicle. So you pick your engine. And now, see, now that I'm in this mode, I can pick the different modules that I can go into. So for this one, let's pick the airbag module. So let's say I had an airbag light on my dash. I don't, but let's say I did. Now I can go in and I can read the data and the codes from that airbag module. So let's say I want to see the airbag data. And okay, so it's showing me my battery voltage, my driver's seat belt. So let's do this. Watch the data on the bottom there. I'm going to snap in my seat belt, and you see it just changed. Now I unplug my seat belt and it goes back down. So maybe if you're having a code for that, you'd be able to check and see if it worked. So let's go back out now. And there's different information that you can read. It's going to be categorized in those different parts. This one's giving you some calibration ID. There's lots of different things you can go into. We're going to go back out though to our main screen. So now I'm going to go into the engine mode, which is similar to OBD2, but we're going to have some other functions here. So we have our codes, like we said. We have our data, which will be more detailed than what we had. And then we also have generic functions. So if you hit that generic functions, you can access all that stuff you could in global. Actually, I'm going to go back out. That's not where I wanted to go. Okay, so now that I'm in a vehicle specific, now when I hit data, I have lots of different options to choose from. Remember, in global we only had one. Now in vehicle specific we have a ton of options we can go into. So I want to see the misfire data. And now I can look at all the misfires on all my cylinders. And it'll even show me the history. So at one point my vehicle was missing on number 3. And that was me actually doing some testing on it. So I know why those are there. But if I wanted to watch misfires, I would go into there. And what it does is it breaks that data down for you into different sections. So if I want to look just at fuel trims, if I want to look at the EGR, if I want to look at basic engine data, and there's even more down here, I can do that. It breaks it down into subcategories for you, because it's going to give you a lot of information on this vehicle specific side. And let's actually go back into that here. And we're going to look at the fuel trim data that I was showing you the other day. Okay, so right now I can see my short and my long-term fuel trim, and it's in the number mode. So let's switch that to graphing mode. So now I can see two graphs on there. You can see my long term is pretty steady. My short term is up and down, and it's within 5 to 10, so we're doing pretty good there. Let's say I want to see some more graphs. Now I can get a few more on there. And then as I change the RPM on my engine, you can see those numbers are changing. And it'll show you the value over here, but it's also going to graph it. And sometimes it's just easier to see the graph. Now, if you want to save any of this data, you can hit this little button here, and it will save that. And I'm going to show you how to access that now. So once you saved your data, and maybe you want to save it for a later time so you can look at it later, you can go into previous vehicles and data. So I want to view my saved data. And there's what I just saved right there, 2003 Buick Park Avenue. And these were some of the other ones we did the other day, but let's just look at what I had on there. So I go to my saved data, and now it shows me what I was looking at when I hit save. So again, if you're on a test drive and something's acting up and you're driving and you don't have time to look down at the scanner, you can just hit that save button and you can go look at it later. And then I can walk through as I go, and I can even switch this to graphing, where this isn't live data, this is what I recorded earlier, but I can go through and look at specific things to see if I can find a problem. And all the controls are up here. It's pretty nice setup here. So let's go back out one more time. Okay, if we go into this, we can also look at vehicle history. So if you hooked up to a vehicle before that was Ben's, this is one I did today, that's the one you looked at, that's mine, you can click back onto this, and then I can hook up to that vehicle. So if you didn't want to enter all the information again for the same vehicle, that's where you go. You have everything saved in there that you looked at, and I think it'll delete them after a certain period of time. But let's say you were looking at this earlier in the day and you came back to it and you wanted to save yourself a couple minutes, that's how you would do it. So, and the last thing is tools, and this is basically just the settings of the scan tool itself. Everything's set up pretty well right now. If you want to load this data up to a computer, you can hit connect to PC, and there's a cable in here that you can hook it up to your laptop or your computer if you have one. And I haven't tried that yet. You'd have to mess around with that a little bit. If you wanted to get that to work, maybe you wanted to email some of this to somebody, that would be where you would do that. And in settings, you have configure units. So if maybe you want to see temperature in Celsius, this is where you would change. If you want to see kilometers per hour, you could change it there. A lot of different scales that you can change, but most of it's set up on stuff that we look at normally, so I wouldn't mess around with that stuff unless you really want to. But that's basically it. It can do a lot of stuff. It's pretty decent scan tool and pretty easy to use. And if you have any other questions, just ask. All right.